So two questions here. What makes you think he's trying to get the president to pay his legal fees? What in the interview made that be a conclusion that you would draw from this?
Well, I know for a fact that he's running out of money. He's spent
How do you know that?
considerable. Well, I'm not going to get into the details of how I know that, but my record's pretty good on statements that I make and the accuracy of those statements. I know he's running out of money. He's been burning through millions of dollars in legal fees. This is a very expensive process. He needs somebody to pay his legal fees. And he's very upset that the president has abandoned him and basically placed him on an island. And so that's the only reason you give an interview like this, is to send a message to the president that you need help in your legal fees, and then also to try to paint yourself as this heroic figure and as a good guy. Well, guess what? You can't be a hero or a good guy. You can't be a hero or a good guy until you actually do the right thing.
Well, he talked specifically about this idea that he's not a villain, right? In this interview, he said, I will not be a punching bag as part of anyone's defense strategy. He said, I am not a villain of this story, and I will not allow others to try to depict me that way. Does Michael Cohen have a point?
No, he has no point at all. He's an absolute villain. He's at the center of this and all of these shenanigans and this conduct that went on. He may not think he's a villain, but he absolutely is a villain. There's no question about that. The only way that he can right this ship and start to seek forgiveness in an appropriate way and to do the right thing is to come clean with what he has, the information that he has, and he needs to do it now and stop paying lip service to it.
Let me ask you this. You talked about the idea that you believe Michael Cohen is trying to, via the airwaves, send a message to the president. This is a president for whom messages via the airwaves has sometimes been effective. Do you think it will be in this instance?
Well, I don't think it's going to be effective because I think that the president is notoriously cheap, doesn't pay his own bills, let alone the bills of those around him. And I think that he made a strategic mistake months ago by putting this guy on an island. I think that he should have, not to mix metaphors, but I think he should have brought him inside the tent, kept him inside the tent. You don't take a guy that is this dumb and this incompetent and trust your innermost secrets to him and then put him on an island. That's a recipe for disaster.
A couple other topics for you, but let me just ask, just the language that you use to talk about Cohen, dumb, ignorant, et cetera, are you comfortable with that? Is that the kind of level of discourse that you want around this?
Well, I'm comfortable with the truth, and it happens to be the truth.
Let me ask you about two other things. You have for weeks been hinting that there are others that you have been talking with, similar to Stormy Daniels, who are in similar positions to your client. You've said there are other women who have contacted you. At what point are you going to be naming names? At what point are you going to be coming public with more of these stories if, in fact, they exist?
Well, we can't do anything relating to those clients until we have their approval and until they feel comfortable.
So you're not there yet with these women?
Correct. And if we get there, we're certainly going to disclose it.
There's another story that has you in the headlines, and it's one that we've covered, this idea of a prank call that apparently got through to President Trump on Air Force One by a former Howard Stern sidekick, Stuttering John, Michael. He says that he has been reached out to by the Secret Service, and he says that you have agreed to represent him in this. Is that true? What's going on?
That is true. John Melendez reached out to me on Friday, asked me to consider the representation. We spoke again yesterday. He contacted me again and asked me to represent him in connection with this. I agreed as of yesterday afternoon to be his lawyer in connection with the inquiry by the Secret Service and any resulting criminal charges. And so as of right now, I represent him, and we're in the process of getting to the bottom of what happened. But let me say this. I think the focus by the White House and the Secret Service on this is ridiculous. I think these resources would be better spent on things that really matter, like reuniting.
You don't think there's a real security concern that some prankster can get through to Donald Trump?
Well, I think there's a real security concern, but that doesn't have anything to do with potentially going after my client. I mean, they know what happened here. They have at their disposal access to the witnesses from the White House and Air Force One that patched through this call. But I do agree there's a significant security concern. This is a president that talks tough on security and yet gets pranked. I mean, it's an absolute embarrassment. It's a joke.
Are you concerned that your client, and now I'm talking about Stuttering John, Mr. Melendez, are you concerned that he could be in real trouble for this? And why did you agree to take on this case? Seems like you might have plenty on your plate.
Well, I've got a very large staff, and we handle a number of cases at any given time. I do have concern that there could be there could be potential charges flowing from this, especially if the president attempts to make an example out of him in an effort to save his damaged ego. And I think there's a likelihood of that. And that's one of the reasons why I agreed to take on the representation. But, you always have to take these things seriously, especially when you have somebody like Donald Trump on the other side who has a vendetta from time to time.
Two more for you, Michael, and then I promise I'll let you go. How do you respond to critics who look at some of what you've been doing in your representation and saying, hey, Michael Avenatti will take any case that gets him into the headlines? How do you respond to that criticism?
No, that's just not true. I've taken all kinds of cases over the last 3 months that have no headlines. We get contacted about 100 times a week from people seeking representation. We take a few of those cases. It's just not accurate. I mean, this is what I do. I fight for people, the Davids versus the Goliath. I've done it for 18 years. The fact that some of these cases get publicity really is of no moment.
Thank you for checking out our YouTube channel. Why don't you subscribe? It's really easy. Just click on that button down there. And for more news from MSNBC, click on any of these videos here for the latest interviews and highlights. You can get more videos from MSNBC with our newsletters. Head over to msnbc.com/newsletters to sign up.